Welcome to Find It on this Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And I have a very special guest, as I always do. We are so blessed to have Dr. Bill Janeshak. He is in the house tonight to share his wonderful wellness, health, wisdom with us. And he has a great story to tell. So stay with us, and we're going to play his intro, and he will be right back with us. Welcome to the show, Bill, Dr. Bill Janeshak.
That was cool. I never saw an intro like that. I definitely don't make those like that myself. Awesome. You must have a great producer.
Oh, we must have a great producer, Lynn Serrano, in the back. Yeah, she is like magical with those intros. I get super excited. We're so glad to have you with us tonight. And I cannot wait. Hello, Sean. Hello, Bob.
Hey,
we have some people piping in today. So excited. Bob, you saw yourself in that intro, right? You and Joe, a lot of y'all. The best part of the video was me in the pictures. I have a feeling that's Joe Ingram. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
And I think
either Joe or Glenn. And we're going to start getting messages from Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these other famous people under Facebook user, I'm sure.
Exactly. Well, Bill, you and I have not spoken, but we've been communicating through social media and email. And I've read your bio. It's extensive. So I really want you to explain to people what you do. But before we get there, let's just talk about Bill, the man, and where you were born and raised.
The myth, the legend. I was born. So I'm coming to you live from Southern California. So I grew up in the town Buena Park. Then that's famous for where Knott's Berry Farm is. Okay. And I grew up about a quarter mile from there. People from Buena Park really don't leave Buena Park.
I go. This is Donald Trump, and this show is huge.
I grew up there. I went elementary school all through high school, early college there. And it was, it was I tell people, if you want to kind of really understand, remember the Wonder Years? I was Kevin. Same era, kind of the same living strategies that we had going around there. I was a baseball player, so I played a lot of baseball, and that was my passion. That was my first passion. Okay. And that just kind of brought me as far as we're growing up.
Wow. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I had a sister. She passed away last year. And you know what? I'm the sole survivor from the family. So I've been orphaned, I guess.
Oh, so your mother and father have passed, and so
they passed. My sister passed away, and here I am. And then there was one.
And then there was you, the myth.
Yeah. So
the legend.
I always tell people, I said, well, I knew I would change family history, but now there's no one to conflict with it.
Oh my gosh. Well, you got that right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Bill. It's so good. It's so good to have you on here. And so I want to talk about the fact that you, I believe, and from what I've read, you yourself struggled with seizures growing up. Is that true?
No. I never struggled with them. It was everybody around me that had to worry about them.
Yeah, true.
It's funny about the seizures. So when I was 4, I started having seizures, and they just, I would sit around and flip out. And, the old thing, we were so poor that Mom used to put all the water in the bathtub and throw me in there. That way we could wash the laundry at the same time we would have a seizure.
Oh my gosh.
But back then they wouldn't, there really wasn't no diagnosis. They had EEGs, where they would stick, little electrodes in your head to read brain waves. But they just kind of said, oh, well, yeah, it's seizures. You have them. And then they put me on medication. So from when I was 4 years old till I was about 22 or 23, I was on this medication. And I would have, there's grand mal seizures, and those are the washing machine
Bad,
seizures.
yeah. Aggressive.
And they kind of come up. And then I would have petite mal seizures. And those are the ones that you just kind of like zone out, and then you kind of zone back in. And I really never knew that I had them, but when I was growing up, there'd be times that I'd be eating breakfast and mom would look at me and she'd say, "All right, go back to bed. You're not going to school." And I'm like, yes. I don't know what I did, but duh. And I said, "Well, how come I had that?" She goes, "Well, you were having little seizures and we can't have them." I'm like, "Well, what
Wow.
happens, Mom?" She goes, "Well, your eyes will flicker." And he was like, and I'm remembering this because like when I didn't want to go to school, I would try to move my eyes around and she'd, "Get the hell out of here, go to school, you brat," but that's, and when I say that they didn't bother me, seizures were like really bad for the day, but like the next day, I was totally over it and recovered as long as I could rest and just kind of get recovered for it. I was fine.
Mm.
And the medication was really weird because I would have to go in once a year, and the doctor would say, "So have you had any seizures?" And then some years I wouldn't have any big ones, and I said no, or maybe yes, or whatever. And then he would say, "All right, we'll take more." You know what? It was always more. I
Mm.
never got, well, then take less of this drug.
It was
And
always more. Did you
yeah,
ever hurt yourself flailing around?
yeah. I have some scars up here and down here because when you fall down, I'd always bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe that's why I have no filter today, is because I bit my tongue so many times growing up that I refused to
You're
do it
not
any
going to now.
consciously. Um, I bit my dad one time, and that was one of the first ones because they used to tell, well, stick something in their, an epileptic's mouth so they don't swallow their tongue. Well, he stuck his finger in there, and an epileptic's bite is like Joe's pit bull. It just cramps down, and you
Doesn't
can't.
let go.
Yeah, you can't say, "Oh, could you please let go?" And yeah, so almost bit his finger off.
Oh no. Yeah.
But he learned. Don't worry about him. He's okay.
He's oh gosh. Well, then, you go along and you continue to have these, and then what happens when you're 18 years old?
Well, when I was 18 years old, we graduated high school, and then at that point I was playing with. I was signed by the Mets, so I played baseball
Oh
for a
my
while.
gosh. I didn't do my research. I did not know that. What
Well, it's in
position did you
all
play?
the in the tattletales of Bill Janeshak and every single A ball player that was out there. But I was a baseball player, so I played in the Pacific Coast League, which is down here in California, for the Mets. And my daughter asked me the other day. She said, "Well, Dad, if you wouldn't have got injured, do you think you would have made it in the majors?" And I'm looking around. I'm like, "I didn't get injured." She goes, "Well, that's why I thought you started playing." I said, "No, I maximized my talent, and I was not good enough to go any further than you could." 18-year-olds become, yeah,
Yeah, our
yeah.
Facebook user.
I never really got that one, Facebook user.
Yeah.
But that's where I went. But that was the interesting, because I think what you're getting to is I was an athlete and I was in good shape. I didn't have symptoms. I didn't have headache, neck pain, back pain, blah, blah, blah. But it was then my mom dragged me to the chiropractor. And that was just, I'm like, oh, what do those quacks want? What do they go? Well, he said, you never had your spine checked, so you better have your spine checked. I'm like, Mom, it's a scam. It's like a bad MLM. They're going to get you in. And this is what she goes, just do, because like of all successful ex-baseball players, I was living at home again. And I went back over. And so after them harassing me, I went in to do the exam. I wrote down name, rank, and serial number. I did the examination, bend down this way, do this. And I'm like, no pain, no pain, because I'm thinking like a patient. Well, if I
Yeah.
tell him I don't have any pain, he's just going to tap me on the butt and let me go out the door. But then they go, well, let me take x-rays. it was a free exam because as a favor to my mom or practice members, they'll do that for your family. And I do that in my practice today. But they'll go in and they took x-rays and they said, all right, we'll come back, because back then it took some time to develop x-rays. So I would go back, and I left, and it took them a couple days, dragged my mom into, and I had to sit in this room. I'm looking at these x-rays, and then the doctor walks in, because actually I was looking for stuff to steal. You know, like when you're in the medical doctor's office, you goes like, oh, I could use some Q-tips, and I got some cotton swab. Chiropractor's office,
Bill,
there's nothing.
I don't know. I've never stolen.
Let me see your other hand. I want to see if your fingers are crossed, just like that. So I was 22 and I was saving up to move out, I guess. But doctor walks in, and then he goes, wow. And there was like a curtain, and he'd pull the curtain. He said, these x-rays look familiar. And I'm all like, what do I look like, your radiologist? I'm like, oh, those are mine. And I'm looking, and I was studying nutrition at Cypress College at the time. And I'm looking, I'm like, huh, well, that looks different. And he says, well, this bone's out here. And he goes, well, I noticed you didn't have any pain. He says, well, people with this, and he went through a list of things. He says, you can have digestive issues, constipation, diarrhea, epilepsy, ringing in the ears, migraine headaches, double vision, and all this stuff that can happen from a brainstem injury. And so in my wise mind, I'm going, oh, mom must have told him, because like I said, I didn't write anything down on the paper because that was only for my real doctor, not these quacks. And I said, what did you say? How does it do that? And then he kind of explained about epilepsy. And I told him, I said, well, I have that. And he's looking through the paperwork, and he goes, well, I said, well, I didn't write that. That was for my real doctor. He said, oh, well, yeah, you need to get this taken care of. And I'm like, whoa there. How does that work? And he showed me about the nerves come from the spine into the brain. And he had pictures on the wall, and I followed it with my finger. I'm like, well, that makes sense. And I went and got it adjusted because I wanted to see what it felt like to get cracked. I had some friends that do it, and they go, it's pretty cool, dude. And so I went down and got adjusted. And I came up, and you could hear the angels singing in the background. Not Otani and Trout. I mean, the actual angels that, and I came up, and I could see better colors, and I could hear cleaner, and I felt lighter. And I was just like, what did they give me? And remember, I didn't have any pain or symptoms coming down. I just felt better getting up. And I'm like, wow. And it was kind of like stunning. It was like, what did these quacks do? And
the quack gave me a crack. Now I can see that.
Quack my back. And so they set me up on a treatment plan that I had no intentions of following because it was like expensive for me at the time. It was going to take a long time. I had, places to go and people to see, but I was curious. And then I went back out, and I had Grey's Anatomy, not the TV show, but the actual book. And I was trying to look up, because he was the bone on the back that sticks out that you can feel right back here is called the spinous process. You feel it?
Yeah.
So he was telling me this, and I'm like, spinal process. So I look in Grey's Anatomy, but I'm looking for spinal process as a verb, and I didn't know it was a noun. So I'm like, well, what process are they talking about? Because I was looking to the thing that made epilepsy, and I'm just like, screw it. So I went back to the pictures, and then I'm following the pictures around. I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. And then I went back over, and I went back to him, not because he told me to, because I don't do things people tell me to, but because I was curious. And I'm like, first I was trying to prove him wrong because, I was 22. So that was
you knew everything.
Education. Yes, absolutely. I knew everything.
At 22, I did too.
And I went back and I asked him the questions, and I said, well, I see this. I said, how does that work? And then he explained it to me. He goes, well, if there's too much if there's not enough oxygen coming to the brain, your body's, because he kept on saying, he said, your body's intelligent. And I'm like, does he know my body? But he would always have an answer. He goes, well, this is how it works. And then I stopped and I said, why didn't my doctor tell me? Because I was buying into this guy, and I'm like, why wouldn't my doctor tell me that? Because here's a fun fact: is my doctor just retired like maybe 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He delivered me. I've had one doctor my whole
Your
life.
whole life.
So he treated the whole family. Way back in the day, he used to do house calls for grandma and everybody else. So he was old Doc Boston. A lot of faith in him. I said, why didn't my doctor tell me? He said they don't know. And I'm like, oh, dude, you had me until you said that, he has a white coat, a stethoscope, and a BMW. I said, he's a real doctor. And you're sitting here and he doesn't know. He said, what do you do to treat your epilepsy? I said, well, I took 600 milligrams of Dilantin every day. He said, did you have seizures? I said, well, sometimes. Some were better than others. And he goes, so are you telling me that the cause of your epilepsy was that you were Dilantin deficient? And I went, and I made that face. It goes, like this. He goes, and when they examined you, did they check out about it? He says, if you cut, do you have to go to the doctor to make it heal? I'm going, no. He says, well, why would epilepsy be any different? And he said, I'm not saying that there's not need for medical doctors. I'm not saying that. He said, but it's not the only way to do it, because they're taught to treat symptoms and we're looking at the cause. And he said, the body's intelligent. If you move everything out of the way that's blocking the body from doing its job, it'll do its job to the best of its ability. And it's so intelligent and it's so complex that just do that and you'll get better. And this went along. So a year of getting adjusted and getting back. And after a year, I found out, I'm like, oh shit, I haven't had any seizures. But like I said, some years I would not have seizures, so I didn't think much of it. But I bought into this.
I have a question. As you
yeah,
were,
you in the front.
Hey, you in the front. Could I? As you were getting adjusted for that year, did you continue your epilepsy medicine, or did you? Okay, so you were getting treatment plus you were still taking your medication. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wouldn't remember. I started on that medication when I was 4.
Yeah.
At the height of my parents being, why is my baby flopping around?
Scary.
And yeah, it's scary. So I've been told since I was this big, take your medication every day. If you don't take it, you're going to have seizures. So my routine for almost 20 years was get up, pee, take my medicine, eat breakfast, brush my teeth, get ready for school, and go. It was always pee and then get my medication. Sometimes I wouldn't pee, but I would always take my medication.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big deal. So, but like after a year, and then I'm learning, then I learned, and this would blow my mind, was that medications weren't necessarily good for you.
Right.
And I'm like, how could that be? These are scientists. And they tell me what I need to take to make me get better. It's like magic. But then now this opened the whole thing. This is where the hippie in me came in. It was like, hey man, that's not like natural. So let's find out something more natural so we can get all where we're supposed to be. But then I look up and I'm looking at all these side effects of this thing I've been taking for 20 years. And you would not believe this, but it's a sedative. So it makes your brain small. It makes me a little slower. So this is the crazy part. When I was growing up, I wasn't the best student. was a jock, so it averaged out on these other things. And I would have probably been diagnosed with ADHD back then if they didn't just call them boys. And then when we were going back down, I had a stammer. If I got nervous or anything, it was harder for me to process something. Or if they'd ask me a question, I may know the answer, but it had to go through all these. It was like AOL dial-up inside, and then I'm like, and then I would have to figure it out. And sometimes it was like, oh, don't worry about him. He's a baseball player. Just let him go. So the year after I was getting adjusted, then I thought, well, I'm going to get off these medications. But I did it slow. So I was taking 6 a day. So I would take 6 and 5 and 6 and 6 and 5 and 6 and 6. And it took me like probably 6 or 8 months to get out.
Joe wants to know, what is AOL?
You don't know that's Joe. It just says Facebook user.
Okay, we'll go with that.
That could be any
some random Facebook user.
So as I would take it down, and then I finally got off it. But that's where the magic happened. It wasn't the adjustment. The adjustment enabled me to get off the medication. And when the medication, the side effects, and again,
wow, that's incredible.
I'm not saying that you don't need them or you do need those. I said, I'm just talking from what was going on with me. The side effects that I had, I didn't know I was having the side effects because they were just my life.
Right. Since you were 4 years old, how would you know any differently?
No, it's just like if I woke up speaking Spanish as that's just what I do. You know, you pee and speak Spanish and then go to school. But it's the same. It's the same thing. That I didn't know the difference. But when I'm learning about it, so I'm going, oh, well, this might not be a good idea for me to take. So when I got off it, but the magic happened when I went back to school. So you take this jock with this normal thing with the stammer and everything. All of a sudden, I was getting straight A's. There was no stammer. Things happened so fast. They would process so fast. It was amazing. I would do so many different things because it was just like, all right, well, keep more information. It was like this flood of information. And
let's back up a second, which is amazing, because now that you've slowed down the medication, you're not completely done with the medication yet, or you are at this point.
No, at that point I was pretty much, but I kept that medication in my, I don't call it a medicine cabinet at home. I just call it the bathroom storage cabinet.
Yeah.
But I kept it there for 5 years just in case.
Just in case. But you were getting regular adjustments, and then you went back to school. What did you go back to school for?
Well, I had been going to school. I was studying nutrition. I started out as psychology because it was just interesting.
Yeah.
And it looked easy because like anybody can do psychology. But that was very interesting. But then the first round of school, I left because I wanted to be a rock star and an entrepreneur. And then when I went back, then that's when I continued. I'd always studied nutrition, but then I went back to study it was actually pre-med. It was the same program to get in for chiropractic because I had to be a chiropractor. But when I'm taking these classes and you have this dumb jock that's all of a sudden excelling in a lot of these courses, and it's not supposed to happen. And this is not a joke. I got on the dean's list, and I was so used to being on the shit list that I'm like, I got straight A's, and I get this thing from Cypress College that you've been on the dean's list, and I'm like, damn, I worked so hard. My reputation preceded me. I didn't even do it. I'm framed. I'm calling the lawyer. And then someone else told me, said, no, that's like the honor roll. I'm like, oh.
Oh my gosh.
That's not a joke. I really thought that. I'm like, oh shit. But
you're used to being on the list. That's for sure. You just didn't.
I have been suspended from every school that I've had except junior high and junior college. So something about that transition years, I must have been good, or they just didn't catch me. Um, Thanks, Facebook user.
Facebook user says Dean was the name of his bookie. That's awesome.
Um,
But yeah, I mean,
but I
how
was always
amazing.
suspended for the same reason. It's just the administration's lack of sense of humor.
Yes. But it's incredible to me to think how you must have felt in those moments when you went back to school medicine free and things were computing and you were able to think of things that you wanted to say and out with it. It had to have been super incredible for you to go through that and then realize it was because of the medication.
It was very, you know what I thought? I thought, shit, I've been sedated my whole life.
Oh yeah.
How far would I have been in baseball?
Wow.
Because I can,
Tom Genn just said I can relate with Bill.
oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah. Facebook user, Bill is a less tan, less brown. Oh my God. For you guys that are actually watching, we're getting full comic relief piping in here.
Well, when you say comic,
that's a matter
that's relative term. But yeah, I had always thought, I said, well, how far would I have gone? I mean, I could have signed $1 million contract and took steroids and been in rehab today, like everybody else. But I'm like, but it's interesting how life's journeys come. Because did you see Field of Dreams?
Oh yeah, build it and they will come.
When they had Doc on there,
mm-hmm.
and he had to cross the lines, and if he crossed the lines and he couldn't go back, he said, well, if I had to give up my dreams to come to my purpose, that's kind of how I feel. Because now, so I've been doing this 25 years. I'm just as excited coming to work every Monday as I was the day I graduated, because I'm always mastering something, but then there's something I have to learn. So it's never the same. It's not like I'm on an assembly line, crack, crack, crack. Oh, how are you doing? Thank you, thank you. It's not like, okay, been there, done there, next. There's always something deeper. And I think, and I always joke, I said, I got more degrees than a thermometer, but it's not so that I can sit over here and say, well, now I don't have imposter syndrome anymore. It's just like I get into something and I'm like, that's very interesting. That relates to this and that. And when my vocation and my avocation become the same thing and you have your purpose, it was like, so I tell people, I said, if I win the lottery tomorrow, I'm not coming to work till 9.
I love it. Yeah. That says a lot about how much you enjoy and put into. Listen, the show's called Find It. You found your passion, you found your soul's purpose, and it was a long road to get there, and a lot of seizures later, but wow. And then you being interested in how it fixed you. What other degrees do you have, Bill?
Well, just through the years, I have a diplomat in whiplash spinal trauma, and the reason that I did that is because it's not about an injury. It's about there's with whiplash and stuff. There's a lot of neural issues going on. So once you geek out on the stuff and you sit around with other doctors and stuff, we're working pathways, and this cell did that, and this nerve does that. So it bores the hell out of like you muggles, but Gryffindors will sew over there and we'll talk about it more and more, because then we're figuring things out, because it's like a puzzle. When a patient comes in, it's like a puzzle, and they're listening and they're like giving clues. It's like Wordle, I guess. Maybe we're playing Wordle. And they'll tell me what's going on. And then I have to think, I'm going, okay, these structures live over here, and those structures do that. And those are influenced by this, by over here. And then if we find out that they've had a profit injury, okay, well, that's the higher likelihood of this. We can do this test, this test, this test, and come out with another. And we have a probability. We test the probability, and then we kind of run with that. And then we have a decision node. That's right, Facebook user. Muggles are slow. And that's kind of how I got into with NLP and some other stuff that we're doing, because I was thinking, like, if I only learn more, I could heal the world just by my knowledge, by putting it together. And there was a problem with that, because my treatment requires the patient's participation, and compliance, it was a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And so, like, my jam is really stress, because stress is physical, chemical, and emotional. Well, we can nerd out, we can talk about the physical and the chemical, because we know pathways, we know injury things, we have x-rays like that. The emotional stuff, and we were talking earlier about unpacking when me and Joe were doing that. Me and Joe would sit and we would take these classes. Bob Donnell's stuff is unbelievable.
Love Bob.
Everybody loves Bob. We should have a show named that.
We should have Everybody
loves Bob. I always
Greg.
joke about Bob is that Kevin Bacon has nothing on Bob. You know, if it's 7 degrees from Kevin Bacon, it's 4 from Bob Donnell.
I love it.
But as we would go through, you know, we'd learn that, and I was learning more about myself, and big Tony Robbins guy. So I'm like, well, how does he do those breakthrough, and how's Bob do that? And then I found NLP, and then I looked at that. I'm like, now I can go back, but I can't spend.
Now, for the people listening, NLP stands for neural tell me. Neural.
No, I want to hear you say it now.
Wait a minute. Let me figure it out. I'll get this. Neuro-linguistic. Okay.
Language. Yeah.
Language. Yeah.
And it's actually the it's the study of greatness is what they do, because you'll break down all the little subconscious things that you have. Because if you want to mirror somebody, or you want to emulate somebody, find out exactly what they do. Exactly. I trigger myself this way, and beliefs, and it just goes down the rabbit hole. And I use NLP every day on me. And then I'll use it with the patients on some things, but I don't have time to spend an hour with each patient. But because I know that, I can refer out, and I can say, well, let's look at this, and this patient would need this, this, and this. And I know enough people in the space that I can find really good people to get taken. In fact, it was funny. Do you practice that? Are you familiar with it?
Not enough to be dangerous, Bill.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't studied it. No.
So
I can't even say it yet.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm gonna figure out how to say it, and then I'll learn it.
After Ken Walls was on there.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, because one of the early implementers of NLP was Robert McDonald, and he comes waltzing into my office. He goes, "Oh, I see that you do this you do NLP." And I'm like, and I hear that all the time. Somebody heard you know, they went to a sales seminar, or someone did a barroom trick or something. I'm like, oh, yeah. He goes, well, I did this. And he told me about it. And then I'm like, who is this guy? And I Googled him, and I'm like, he's written like the 5 most extensive books of the art of teaching NLP. And he's a great friend now, but yeah, I digress. But that was part of the thing, that was the chemical thing that I got in, because there's always one more thing to learn. And,
but then you have a multitude of degrees. So the way I feel about you is, I know that you explained you don't want them to line your walls. You've gone back and back and back because you're so intrigued by everything that you've learned, and you want to continue your education so you can help your patient. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I mean, nutrition, physiology, you know, psychology, even. I mean, you know, to understand, and your humor is amazing. So I'm sure you are able to.
Yeah, I'm funnier than shit. I'm amazing.
Funnier than shit. But isn't it scary? Do you ever have patients come in who are afraid to have their neck cracked? Because that would be this
Not
gal.
only every day.
Scary.
No.
Scary.
It does appear that, and then I'll ask the people about that. But it's, Debbie, it's the safest form of healthcare if you think about it. So any incidents with chiropractic treatment is one within the millions. If you think about the safest, what do you consider the safest form of medical treatment? Aspirin?
Taking care of myself.
Well, that's
Eating
not
right,
medical treatment. That's
exercise.
self-care.
Yeah, I just think that I don't, I mean, listen, I probably need a chiropractor, but I never have gone
Yeah.
because I'm afraid. So you're the perfect person to
No,
talk
that's
to. We have
okay.
really good
That's all
chiropractors
right.
in our
No, we have that all the time.
Yeah.
So well, this is what so if you get a headache or neck pain, what do you do?
I try to stretch, and I've been having that. Like my friend just told me on vacation, she said, you need to go get adjusted. That's why I never have headaches, but I've been having them. And she's like,
But
I
what do you do
think
for those?
I just stretch and rub it.
And you rub it, and then does it come back or does it stay away forever?
Just, I have a lot of tension.
So
It
you take
does. It
aspirin?
comes
You ever
back.
take aspirin?
No, I never take, I usually don't take aspirin. I don't think I've ever taken, I've taken ibuprofen before, but not for neck pain.
So when those are considered NSAIDs, so those
Yeah.
are, and like you said, those are over the counter. You can get them at Costco. You can get them, from the pusher down the street or whoever else you want to do. But all of those block the type 2 collagen as it's healing. So if you have any problems, so what happens then is that you feel better, but you heal worse. So as you start you're running through this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just because the pain's gone doesn't mean that the condition, what's causing the headache.
Right.
And then if you go back into like the big stuff, is that 45,000 people die every year from taking aspirin.
Yeah.
But it's routinely sold, and you don't have to be 18 to buy it, and you don't have to do this, and you don't need a subscription, and you don't have to do anything to do that. You can just go buy it and take it because just to be safe, but it's not safe.
Right.
So let's say you're in Belize and you're partying like a rock star. Maybe you got a self-induced headache the next morning and you just feel like you take an aspirin to get over it. Who cares? But when it becomes part of your lifestyle and you start popping them like vitamins, or or it's on your shopping list because it's just so, well, I got to get eggs, milk, aspirin, then there's a problem, because now you are using something outside. Remember, the body's smart, like all the quacks said. Now you're adjusting that to, you're messing with your physiology. And
right. This is such valuable information.
Yeah, I'm amazing.
You are,
within my bio, I put it.
it is amazing, because for our listeners and the people who listen in the future, using these over-the-counter drugs that are, you don't have to be a certain age to buy them. You think that they're totally safe because it's regulated by, our country. You think it's fine, but with repetitive use, it really isn't good. And maybe someone listening, this is the first time they've ever actually heard that. So I'm glad that you're bringing that up.
Well, let me share something, because I didn't ask you that, and I saw Trisha come on there, and then so I told you why one side's bad.
Oh,
there. So
Trisha says, chiropractic scares me. I live with pain. I admit I'm a chicken. So what advice do you give to her?
Don't be a chicken.
Don't be a
but
bot.
aside from that, so I'll let you know that, like, adjusting the neck, it's really simple once you know how to do it. And it's not a Bruce Lee movie. It's not this, like that. So if everybody at home, and Trisha, you can do this too, take your thumb and close your eye first and put put your thumb on your eye and just put some pressure there and push down. That's about how much pressure it takes to adjust your spine. And when you move the spine, when those bones get out of place and it's putting pressure on it, once it's set up and you get past that muscle and you get right over here, it's just it's easy, it's effortlessly. And what was that last one over there about the stroke?
It was chiropractic can cause you to have a stroke. There's a lady that died in California after a chiropractic visit.
Yeah. And then one time this lady was in a car accident right after a rain, and rain didn't cause that. So what happens in those cases, it'll happen. And there's a lot of studies, like I said, it's very rare that anything happens, but when it does, usually there's a pre-existing
Condition.
Yeah, and usually it's what they call a dissecting aorta, or where there's like a little crack in the arteries, in the vertebral artery, and it's something that hasn't been, you can't really see this. More people will come from will have problems in strokes at the at the beauty salon than the chiropractor.
Right.
Because they're putting their head back, and usually it's a demographic. So using words like this causes that because they were near each other is problem. If you have a vertigo that's going worse, you have to diagnose about why you have the vertigo, Marcia, because there's several things. It can actually be the vertebrae. There's little like rocks or stuff that can get into the ears. And then sometimes it's a spinal condition about how you perceive your environment, with balancing and finding out where you are in time and space. It's called proprioception. It's where you're perceiving.
Yeah.
And so you have to use your eyes, your inner ears, and then the receptors for your nervous system and they all have to agree. They do this calculation in your head, and then they decide which muscles have to go. If, like I said, with those crystals in your ears, if they fall off, you know the game when we used to play when we were little, like the maze game, you'd have to have the BB and you'd have to move it around when you're on the long car trip. Okay, so that's what's going on in the inner ear. So if you threw this to go off to the side, that's where you're going to go. So there's a technique, and it's called Otolith Reposition. Those little crystals are called otoliths, where you can look at, let me get my eye in it. So if I took my eyes and we're going to look to the side, and we're going to move our head around until we see the eyes flicker, and it's called Nystagmus. It'll go like this. That tells us that like that little crystal is moving around, and it's irritating that. So we can actually move it around, and it's just like that game when we were kids. So if anybody else wants to be a free doctor and you were really good at this game, you just kind of take it and you'll move it around. And you'll find it until that eye steps down, and it says it's pretty good. You slowly kind of bring it back to where it was, and 95% of the time that it'll stay there. And I've had patients that have walked in, and well, they couldn't walk, and they were carried in vomiting.
Oh, yeah.
And we did that in literally 90 seconds. Not everyone does that, but they're dancing up.
That's amazing.
And sometimes it's the adjustment. Sometimes, so this is why you have to know, you examine the whole person.
That's right.
And not everything works on everybody.
Have you, Bill, had a lot of patients that also have epilepsy and have seizures that you've helped them too?
Yeah, it's
great.
My first patient like that was amazing, because he was a 4-year-old boy that the mom brought in, and he was a towhead, and I was a towhead, and it was like looking at me. And I was only in practice maybe 3 years, my own practice. And I don't even remember how he got to me, but someone heard my story, probably the early days of the internet, or I used to spray paint things on people's walls, so maybe they read it there. But
Old school marketing, Bill.
yeah, guerrilla marketing. So I would grow like, but anyways, I did that, and that was the days when it was really popular for the teachers to diagnose the students, and they would just say, "Oh, he needs to go to the doctor," and get it out there and tell. So they ended up coming. So I said, well, let's just adjust him and see what happens. And kids, they respond to chiropractic like adults wish they would. I got 2 adjustments and my life is just also better. But kids don't have 30 years of poor posture and injuries and stress and stuff like that. So I adjusted him just a few times, and his mom came back and said, "Oh yeah, the school called me, and they wanted to know when he got his prescription, because he's been doing so good at school and he's just doing this. He's just like that." And he would go, "Oh, he's just like a different kid. His grades went up, everything else." And I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So
It
I'm like,
sounds
maybe
very
this shit
familiar.
worked.
Yeah, except you had the experience much later in life.
Well, and that's when I first thought about being that doctor that didn't cross over those lines to go to, so I could live my purpose. But I had another one that was really, and he came off a prayer chain. And I reached out. I said, "I don't know if I could help you," because somebody had mentioned my name, and I went back. I'm like, "Ooh, who's talking about me?" And it was Joe Ingram. But other than that,
Yeah.
but I went back over and I reached out. I said, "I don't know if I could help you," but they were about 30, 40 miles away from me. And this kid, it was on April 15th, tax day. It's going to have anybody cause seizures. But
Yeah.
he was 9 years old and he started having, but he came in, he had a helmet on. And I thought I'm trying to think about the politically correct term for retarded now. So
Yeah.
I thought he was mentally deficient or not, whatever.
Yeah.
But I would talk to him. His name was Richard. And I said, "Richard, do this or move that." And he was just so slow and he was slobbering. And I'm
Aw.
looking, and I'd never seen this kid. So I'm like, "Well, does he do this?" And, that he goes, "No, that's not him. That's not normally him." I'm like, "Okay." He had 3 seizures while he was in my office.
Oh my God.
And I had it's an EEG or EMG, where I'd measure the tension in the nervous system along the spine. And he was just off. And I'm like, "I don't know what happened, but he's not good." So we adjusted him. And then they said after the first adjustment, so his seizure stopped like 50%. We got him in. And then after 3 adjustments, the parents decided to take him off his medication.
Wow.
Now, if there's any attorneys listening, I didn't tell him to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the statutes is off, but anyways, I didn't tell him to do that.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, "That's not on my scope, but I'll do this." So the next week I adjust him. I probably adjusted him for, I think, 3 times a week for maybe 3 weeks. And then he was doing good. I had him come back a month later just to check up. And then he was fine. No medication. He's back.
Wow.
Playing with the kid. And I got a letter or a card back from his parents like 6 months later. And it was Richard's report card.
Mhm.
Straight A's with the thing at the bottom. This was my favorite thing. It was Richard talks a lot in class. He's always very playing. He's doing like that. So he turned from this kid into like a normal kid. And his life could have went either way.
Right.
Because if he wouldn't have got adjusted, seizures at that rate just don't like go away and then you're all good.
Right.
So
That's incredible. I mean, the fact that being out of alignment can cause so many things. And I wanted to ask you, with these patients that you align and get them all set, isn't there like a maintenance program where they come like at least after they're all set, like
yeah,
ever
I
so often?
recommend that. I get adjusted regularly. And we would in general, we'd start people like at once a month. But I get some people that are in 4 times a month, and then I get people that I see once a quarter. And it all depends on your lifestyle and your goals and what you want to do. But it's like your body is just a bunch of systems within a system. If you can name me a system that doesn't need maintenance before it breaks down, then I'll adjust you for free, everything. But then, of course, you wouldn't need it because
because we don't need it. We don't need an adjustment. What about people that have like once you get like say a rib is out? I actually had they said a rib was, I don't know, years ago. Once you get it like back where it needs to be, what type of maintenance should people do to keep themselves? I mean, I always say we should stretch and we should keep limber and all that stuff. But after an adjustment, what advice do you give people?
Pay at the front desk.
Yeah, see you later.
It depends, because like some people will come in and they'll have an acute injury, and there's some things that they shouldn't do. In general,
move. What? Move.
In general, move. Stand up straight. Exercise. Breathe right. Don't eat crap. Keep around good friends and everything. Because if somebody's here on a maintenance and they're an athlete, that's going to be different than hey, that's not your eye.
Wants to know how long his thumb should be on his eye.
But that's different than somebody that rides a desk for 14 to 16 hours a day, where they need to be. So basically, it's just kind of take care of yourself. We sit way too much. I'm right in the middle, like not this second because I'm here with you, but I'm doing an online course on movement because we forgot to move. We forgot that it's not a good idea to move. It's a necessity, and people are literally dying because they're not moving.
Yeah.
And when they are doing this,
I believe you. Ken Walls just piped in and said, get in a texting chain with texting conversation with Dr. Bill and Joe Ingram. I bet that would be very interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
But when movement is so important, because if you think about, we are made to move. Mm-hmm. It's a requirement that for our bodies to function properly. And this is all part of your body. This is your eyesight. This is your bowel movements. This is your heart. This is your arteries. This is your toenails growing. This is how well you hear, how well you breathe, how well you have sex, how all this stuff has to do with you moving. And the fact that the less you move, the sicker you get and the less life you live. You can exist. We can just kind of plop you in the corner and give you some oxygen, some food, and clean up after you every once in a while, but you're not living. You will not be able to party like a rock star in Belize if you are not healthy enough to move around.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And the key is, I know my grandfather, who lived to 95 years old and was very with it the entire time, and he was always on the move. And in fact, he drove. Probably shouldn't have, but he said to me, Debbie, you got to get up. You got to continue to move on days where when you get older and you don't feel like getting out of bed, you still have to get out of bed, because the next day you may not be able to. Don't stop. Body in motion stays in motion.
Body at rest dies a terrible death. The third law of thermodynamics.
Okay.
Body in motion tends to stay in motion. Body at rest tends to die early.
I believe that. I think that is absolutely the truth. And it's not as fun if you're just sitting around. And you know what? That's when my body hurts. Travel, when I can't get up and move, that's where I'm like, oh. So, I mean, that says something right there. If I'm on the move, I'm fine.
It's always going to be that way. You have to move. And we are in a time period where there's a lot of stress out there. But think about it. Even during the this long flu season that we've had, we were locking people down. We're not doing that, and stay at home, have someone deliver your groceries. I mean, how many people have someone do their lawn, wash their car, do their laundry? We're thinking like the key to success is the less and less I do until you do nothing.
Mm.
But it's those very acts of movement that you have to have before, or you cannot get anything done. So you have to move, and it's not a choice. 24 hours of being sedentary, you're already moving your metabolic pathway towards insulin resistance and diabetes. And that's not saying shove your pie hole full of Twinkies. That's just by not moving.
Just by not moving, it slows down.
24 hours of not moving, you will lose 2% of your strength.
Wow. What
just
about with your family, your friends, your patients? If you and now with us, I mean, is there a specific, I know movement in general, but is there a type of exercise that you would like to see everyone do more than something else?
I like watching people dance.
Yeah, so we can walking is a good. What do you think about running?
I hate running.
But
I still run about 7 miles a week, but oh my God, it's so boring.
What about what about yoga?
Yoga is really good.
Yeah,
I like
so
yoga,
as far as for
Pilates.
the body and for everything, for the body, I mean, what would be you in with your expertise and as you as a professional and as a doctor, like if you were to give me the top thing I should do a little bit every day or every week, what would that be?
You should. It's just move. Put your
So
phone in
whatever
the
I
other. Walk, stretch, go to the park, and play on the kids' swing set. CrossFit. You got to do CrossFit. And well, CrossFit is something that. Thanks for the segue. Thanks for the segue, Joe, for that. But that's just a high intensity movement that is different because there's gymnastics involved, and it doesn't have to be CrossFit. Orange Theory does that. You have boot camps to do that. Get up, do some burpees. You should be able to squat. So everybody should be able to squat down so that you'll need to get your feet are flat.
Yeah.
And that you can sit straight up.
Yeah.
But a full squat.
Right.
Everybody should, and I call it, so everybody should be able to poop in the woods.
Okay.
And you keep your balance on that. Everybody should be able to put on a shoe or sock standing up. And everybody should be able to get down on the ground and stand back up without using their hands.
Okay.
Those three things tell us a lot about your overall health. For people, there was a study done that will show that the people, and this was over, I think the age group was in the 50s, but for the people that couldn't do it without, like, get down and stand back up without using these points for balance, if you got 3 points or higher, you had a 5-year survival rate. You would die within 5 years of all causes, because in order for you to do this, that there's so many other systems that are involved that you're able to figure out, because that'll tell you the health of your nervous system, your muscular system, your balance system, and moving around. To poop in the woods, you have to be able to do a deep squat. Those are your range of motions, balance, and everything. And that tells us a lot. Put on your shoes is it's like a sobriety test. So a lot of the the people watching and listening right now should know a lot about sobriety tests, but when they have you balance on one foot, so that's telling you a lot about your brain health.
Yeah.
So all those things put together, those would be the best things. But if you're doing a high intensity exercise, sitting there breathing, you would not believe that the people really having trouble breathing
Mm.
because they breathe through their mouth, and they're
Mm-hmm.
losing a lot of health and wellness and brain movements by not simply breathing through their nose like they're supposed to.
Yeah, and that's
Just
what
follow
like
directions.
yoga and yoga can teach you that. But the listeners, I think, how many of our listeners right now are sitting down trying to get up without using their hands? I love it. I hope you're not in the woods trying to take a poo, but if you
Well,
have
I
to,
know that
let me
Joe
know.
lives out in the woods with bears, so
But yeah, it's good. Okay, so that's good information. Really, any movement at all that you enjoy is healthy for you. And
yeah.
deep breathing in through your nose, that's, that helps with stress and all of the other health benefits that comes with that. And I want to ask you, because gosh, we've already been on here an hour, Bill. You are
Amazing, isn't
really,
it?
yeah, it is, because I have been enthralled in the information that is your career and what you do. But I also want you to let us know. So really what you found is your
Hold
passion.
on.
I
I'm
think
getting
that's probably,
inundated by my ding dings. Okay, there
but
you go.
the thing is, the fact of the matter is you have found your passion. So you found it. But what advice would you give our listeners on in their lives what they should find or what they can find, but through you and your information?
I don't know your listeners. They can do whatever they want. No, I'm just
Hell with them.
a good, I think a great benchmark or barometer is, like I said, is your avocation your vocation?
I love that.
So if what you do for a living, or where you would spend your time, effort, and money, is that something that you would do for free? And if it's not, what would you do for free? Um, it's I can't tell you how to be passionate or how to find passion or what your interests are. I have no idea, because there's people like computer people. Oh my
Mhm.
God, they're so happy geeking out and stuff, and it bores the hell out of me. But
Yeah.
but
But that's
thank
what
God they're
they
here, because like I I can't do that. And I think God's given everybody a different thing. He just implants something. He says, "All right, well, Joe, you're going to be an ass, and then Bob's going to be a connector, and Ken's going to help people with their pod, and they'll run through that. It's so that we all come together and we can support each other. I think that's how communities are made."
I love that. And, I think that what in your life was put in front of you and your mom said, after baseball, let's go get your spine checked, whatever. And all of a sudden this happened and you had this experience. And then through this experience, you were interested and more. And then you took that as I'm finding my way here and I love this and it inspires me and I get to help people. And so I think for me, what I've learned from you, among a lot of other things about getting aligned and how healthy that is also about paying attention to what is put in our path and taking that. You did that, and I think that's really cool, and we're lucky to have doctors like you, even though you're a quack, right?
Yeah, it's hard to be a
There's
quack,
that. There's
and
that.
I'm not a real doctor. But the interesting thing is, yeah, just find yourself, but find out. I get a lot of people that they want to care more about their health,
Yeah.
and they don't. So this is thing is, don't care about your health. But whatever you do care about, because you have to have this meat suit
Mm-hmm.
in order to do whatever you want to do. So if you want to be the rock star in Belize, you actually have to have that physical body that's going to go there. And if you want to go ATV riding or bungee jumping, or you want to lay on the beach, you still have to have your meat suit to do that.
That's right.
If you want to be the best quilter in the world, you got to be able to have the dexterity to come back over here and quilt for hours at a time. Sitting is an endurance sport. So you have to train yourself to sit for what you love. If you're a football player or a professional athlete, you have to train a certain way. We're urban athletes, but why is Tom Brady's health so much more important than yours or anybody else in there? You're living for somebody. There's somebody that cares about you. Stick around for them. Be the best version of yourself for them. And like Joe was talking about CrossFit. I hate CrossFit. Well, think about it. So we go there and it's fun to go, and I see the same group and I talk trash to all those people going on. So I'm going to beat you. We're going to do this like that. And I'm working on something and we're all excited. We look at the workout and then it's 3, 2, 1, go. And then we get into the workout and in no time, my legs are burning and I can't breathe. And all I want to do is stop and quit. And I'm sweating and it's hot. And I'm looking at the girl next to me and she's beating me. I'm going, well, if she's not going to stop, I'm not going to stop. Like that. So you're in the suck. There's no one on earth saying, yeah, this is awesome. No, it sucks. It hurts. It do like that. And then it stops. But at the end of the day, I get to say I get to say that I'm the guy that finished the workout. I did my training. I got stronger. I got this. I got everything that I'd done so that I can go back and do whatever I want guilt-free. With the running, I hate running.
Yeah.
Running, no one chases me. Why am I running? But I still run, like I said, I'll run between 5 and 7 miles a week, which isn't huge, but it's enough to get me going.
Embrace the suck.
That's
awesome.
the word. You bring it in, and there's a certain portion of you after a while that I get to go, oh, this does suck. Yeah. And then I get to Goggins up where I'm just like, oh, David Goggins, I'm going to run through. But I get better. But CrossFit to me is more of a metaphor because you want to do something because you have a goal. It sucks. You pull up my big boy panties and then I run through it and it sucks. And I come out the other side and there's a better version of me over there.
There you go.
But that's everybody else though.
But it's, and the other thing you said earlier was people don't want to not care less about their health. Everybody sort of, it's a matter of doing it. Like you force yourself to do it, even though it sucks and you don't enjoy it, but at the end of the day, you're going to do it and you're going to feel better about yourself for doing it. So I think another message here today is you don't have to do the CrossFit, but you can get out and take a brisk walk. You can move your body in whatever way that you will enjoy. And that means a lot to what the people that you see in your office, the ones that are more active and move their body, they're probably I don't know how to say, a better patient, but you're able to work on them a little better, right?
Well, yeah, because we're yoked in the same direction. If somebody's sitting around there and they're enjoying a day of Twinkies and donuts diet, they sit around, they're watching Tiger King as their sole purpose in life. So their bodies are full of inflammation, they're pain, they can't move, they're not flexible, they can't do things like that. They're not going to get as much out of that because I can't do things for it. Sometimes people come in, they want me to fix them. They want to go and screw up everything that they want to do everything they want to do that I tell them not to do, and for them to come back for me to fix them. And like I have a reset button or something. I don't have a reset button.
Yeah.
And sometimes people
Can you
will do
just
this for
magically
a long
make me
time.
better so I can go do the other crap I
Yeah.
want to do? Yeah.
And then they'll start going that,
Sure.
but they get spoiled because there comes a point where they can't do that anymore. And they go, well, you've always fixed me like that. And I'm like, didn't I tell you to do this and this and this?
Yeah.
But it's just going out and do it. When I work out, I don't work out because it's arm day or it's leg day or it's this. I work out because it's Tuesday. Tuesday, I go to the gym and I do this. I don't even look. And our workouts are always different at CrossFit. So I don't look at them because, like, if I look at them, like, oh, that's gonna suck. I
Yeah.
should really go out and do that. I
Just
just
go and
show
do
up.
it.
I
Don't
just
get
show up
psyched out
because
before you even get there, Bill.
yeah, and it's just what I do. I don't like paying bills, but I still have to do that.
Yeah.
And I pay them like once a quarter, whether I need to or not.
Bill, where can our people find you? Where can we
I'm right
find
here. So
you?
come on over. I'll be here for a couple
Come
more
on over.
minutes. So I'm in Yorba Linda. Facebook. We're on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yorba Linda Family Chiropractic. Dr. Bill Janeshak. And I forget where else we're at. But
Do you have programs that people can attend and sign up for if they're interested in getting to know you a little better and taking some courses?
yeah, I don't recommend people getting to know me better because that really screws a lot of people up. But one of the things, yeah, I
You do.
during COVID, because of the ugly COVID-15 or 30 or 45 for some people, I came up with a course on weight loss, and it's your final weight loss journey. That's going to be actually opening up, I think, in another 3 weeks. And then, like I said, right now I'm working on my favorite course is it's called Rehabilitation, and it's about movement, physically moving around. Yeah, pole dancing is something that we have on. Ken, thanks for asking. We have that on, and I'm looking forward to bringing more courses and events back into my office. We used to do that years ago. Bob Donnell and Wesley Gu and me and Joe had done some stuff here where there are more health events and personal development in the office. So get on my Facebook or Instagram and
So
follow
are
me
you
there.
on Instagram? Are you under at Bill Janish?
Yeah, it's, you know what? Go to Yorba Linda Family Chiropractic
Okay.
and put that in. I think that one's much more active.
Okay.
You get other people like Joe Ingram commenting on my personal. So if you like that kind of stuff, then it's just totally. And then
funny.
look at Pam. Pam's just jumping. Pam
Yeah,
used to be
just
so nice before she met Joe.
Oh my gosh. He's an influencer. He can influence people to come to the dark side.
We
I don't know, Bill.
I know it's just a terrible thing. It was
like the three amigos on the introduction. You know what we should do before we leave is show, instead of me doing my outro, a lot of the people that are on now weren't on in the beginning. And so people can see the pictures of you with Joe and Bob. Really good pictures there for the intro. Maybe we'll show your intro for the outro. But before we go, I want to tell you how grateful I am for you to bring in all these words of wisdom and to give us information about chiropractic stuff and moving our body and the story that you went through in your life. I love it. And I'm so happy you were with us. And with that, do you have any last words you'd like to say to close us out?
No, I'm good. I think we spoke a lot. I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate being. This was a good time.
I loved it.
I like the chance when I get to kind of share. My goal is there's a we've been let down by our healthcare system, and some of it's just a machine that needs to be broken down. but we have so much healing. God, I sound like a real big hippie. We have so much healing
No,
inside
I
our bodies.
want to hear this. I want to hear this. I think we all need to hear this.
We
I think I
have so much
understand what you're
healing
getting.
and capacity inside us, and it's like I said, we're keeping our lights shined under that shade. And you can't have a healthy mind, healthy body, healthy life. You can't influence the people that you want to influence if you're sitting in a meat suit that doesn't serve you. Your state is directly related to your body's ability to move. And what you do that is just move. And then once you move, this is one of the things I get a lot is people will go, they go, oh, it hurts. And I don't like it. And like that. And I'll show them pictures of people like running through a finish line or at the end of the football game that just, they kill themselves and they're always smiling. I said, do they look sad? It's just a matter of getting out. But my goal is to change the paradigm of healthcare, because if you have insurance, you don't have healthcare, you have sick care, and your bed, and there becomes you're torn because you're like, dude, I'm paying $1,200 a month I want to get my money's worth. In order to get your money's worth, you have to be demonstrably sick. Mm-hmm. So what kind of conflict do you have in your body? So like, well, I want to be healthy because I want to fit in that bikini, but I sure could use an MRI to get, offset my cost. It doesn't make sense. But there's so much stuff that we can do that's not expensive, that's way effective. My functional medicine practice, my functional neurology practice, we save thousands or we've had patients that spend tens of thousands of dollars on running down rabbit holes with nothing at the end of them. And like a few adjustments, they're back to where they were. We have the technology. We could rebuild them. We'll bring them back. But yeah. So,
but like you said,
just share the message. And it doesn't have to be me, but just share the
message that the body is intelligent. And if we give it what it needs naturally, most generally, it will work well for us.
Yeah, it pretty much guaranteed. It's like a law of gravity.
Yes.
You can't talk it down. So.
Pamela, I don't think I'm going to get an MRI or a bikini body. That's cute.
So you can send me pictures of the MRI and I can read that, or the bikini body and I can read that one as well.
It's totally fine. Either way, he's good. He's good. And also, don't forget, folks, if you didn't watch the whole thing, you can watch it back. And one message he's wanting us to know is if you can't poop in the woods, you got major problems. So you got to figure that out. You got to get in shape so you can poop in the woods.
Exactly.
All right. And with that, thank you again. And Lynn, let's show Dr. Bill Janeshak's intro for the outro so everyone can see these amazing photos.